Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to create a Facebook ad campaign. This is going to be a very simple video where I walk you through my setup for how I build ads on a weekly basis. We're going to just dive straight into it. First thing that you do is go to the create button at the top left and click sales campaign. Now I'm going to stop you here for 1 second. The difference between Advantage plus shopping campaigns and manual sales campaign, if you don't know, is that Advantage plus shopping campaigns is a slightly different setup and algorithm. I'm not going to go super deep into this, but I do have a full 2 different videos on this. I highly recommend you watching the first Advantage plus shopping campaign video for the sake of this video. And a caveat that I want to share with you is that if you're creating ads in Ads Manager, it's always best to do it within a manual sales campaign. And the reason here is that you can duplicate ads from a manual sales campaign into an Advantage plus shopping campaign, but you cannot do this the other way around. If you build ads directly in an Advantage plus shopping campaign, you cannot duplicate them out into a regular campaign. So it's best to build everything as a manual sales campaign. And even if you intend to launch it as an Advantage plus shopping campaign, and then simply duplicate it into an Advantage plus shopping campaign in the future. I hope that helps provide clarity there. Next, press continue, and you're going to see the campaign level, ad set level, and the ad level. Now, before I dive into any settings, I'm going to create a naming convention for our campaigns. And what acquisition campaigns are is as simple as excluding past purchasers and using full broad targeting. This means that we are letting Meta automatically remarket within our existing campaigns. So we are only excluding past purchasers and letting Meta do as much work as it needs to convert our customers. All right, and I'm going to be setting up a naming convention, and I'm going to paste that across the campaign and ad set level. The reason naming conventions are so important is 1, for organizational purposes, and 2, also for data pulling purposes. If you need to do data visualization or do data pulling through softwares like Supermetrics, having proper naming conventions is extremely important. I'm going to throw a tweet up here from Aaron Orendorf, who the other day said, hey, how do you filter for dynamic product ads or DPAs in the ad account? And there's no real way to do it, but a great media buyer would and should have the campaign, ad set, and ad level named as DPA so that you can automatically filter for that data within the ad platform, which can be really helpful for decision making and doing historical data polling. There's not necessarily a best practice for doing naming conventions. Just make sure it's something that you can remember and do consistently. All right, so let's dive into the campaign build out. Now we're at the campaign level. The only thing I'm going to show you is making sure that you have your daily budget dialed in. Make sure that your daily budget is your target CPA times the 50 conversion events that you need in a week divided by 7. For this account, it's usually around a $900 daily budget that we're setting at the campaign level. And then also make sure that you are using Advantage Campaign Budget. This used to be called Campaign Budget Optimization, or CBO. And all this means is selecting this is letting the AI automatically distribute that daily budget throughout every single ad set within the campaign. I recommend using cost caps or ROAS goal or bid caps. I always recommend using some form of cost controls where you can manually set the bid in the auction. The whole idea here for using cost per result goal is that you're manually setting a bid in the auction where you're saying, hey Meta, I want you to get this specific CPA, and that is my efficiency target. That's the performance that I want from this campaign. And if you can't earn that performance, then don't spend my full daily budget. So this $900, it's only going to deliver a certain amount of those $900 if it thinks that it can hit the specific CPA target that I'm looking for. You can also optimize for a ROAS goal or for a bid cap. And the difference between bid caps and cost cap is cost caps and ROAS goal are both going to average out your target CPA over the course of the attribution window. So if I'm optimizing for 7-day click, it's going to get me a cost per result goal or CPA target over the course averaged out of that attribution window, which means if I set a $50 CPA target, it could technically bid slightly above and below that CPA to average out at 50 throughout the attribution window. For a bid cap, if I set a target CPA of 50, that means that it's only going to bid a maximum of $50, which means that it cannot bid above $50. I wanted to show you a real life example of what I'm talking about, and you can see here in this circumstance that we have some campaigns that have an inflated budget of around $1,200, some campaigns with lesser budgets like $400 a day that aren't actually delivering the full daily budget on a daily basis because they're only delivering what we call auction inventory within the daily auction. How much auction demand is there that the campaign can actually capture spend and capture that demand at the efficiency target that you want? It's going going to completely change on a daily basis. And some days across these campaigns, we spend $682. Some days we spend $780, and some days we spend $440. And it's going to change on a daily basis based on the actual demand that is there in the auction that day. And that's why you want to have an inflated budget on every single campaign. So I would actually prefer these to be a lot higher too, to be around like, probably triple the average daily spend, so that you can automatically scale when the auction demand increases. So for example, on this campaign with $1,200, assuming that we have our cost control set in place, which it looks like we have one 120, one at 115 for whatever reason, and we only were able to spend $43 on the first day of whatever this sale was, right? That indicates that there's just likely a slow day and there wasn't much happening. And so let's see over the course of the lifetime of this campaign, and actually let's just dig in and sort by maximum. You can see that we spent $267 at a 0.69 return on ad spend. A lot of people may say and shout, hey, like, this is shitty. Like, we needed to spend more budget. Well, what I would say is it's likely, looking at some of our soft metrics, a 0.69 click-through rate outbound is not really that impressive. Our conversion rate's relatively low, and our CPM, let's see, and usually I don't care about CPMs at all, but it's worth calling out that they're a bit higher on this campaign, and same with our cost per click being much higher. I'd argue here that if we were to have spent more money on that campaign with highest volume, it may have burnt even more money. And so I'm okay with it not having spent and spending the actual demand that's there. Now, we also see here that in that same amount of time, we got a significantly better return on ad spend from this campaign, driving a considerable amount of conversion volume. Using cost controls, it's a feature, not a bug, when it doesn't spend. There are campaigns that are going to earn ad spend. You just have to launch enough creative volume throughout the month that you're able to find those golden nuggets that you can vertically scale and get through the preferred budget that you have at your target efficiency. However, you should not decide how much you should spend on each campaign on a daily basis. Click next. I know that was a lot on the bid strategy. We're going to want to select a website for driving sales and conversions to your website. You can use website and shop, and it's something I recommend you test out. Just make sure that you have Meta Shop capabilities fully set up. That's a full another video. We're not going to get into that right now. Next, make sure your performance goal is maximize number of conversions. Make sure you're selecting the proper pixel, and make sure that you are selecting a purchase conversion event. That's super important. Honestly, never optimize for initiate checkout, add to cart, or anything else. There's no reason, if you're an e-commerce brand looking to acquire purchasers, you should never optimize for anything else. Now, you're going to want to set your cost per result goal based on the marginal outcome you're looking for. So for example, if my average order value is $130 and I want to earn a 1.3 ROAS, I'm going to run my cost cap at a $100 CPA target. Now I'm going to pause here for a second, and this is something important to understand. You want to try your best to predict what the actual average order value is going to be of this campaign. If you are sending your traffic to a collection page with lots of different average order values, one average order value is a $30 shirt, and you also have an $150 dress, and you have a $250 hoodie. I'm just making this up. You may want to consider optimizing for ROAS goal, because ROAS goal bidding is going to let you optimize for a specific ROAS target, which is going to optimize for a highest value type of customer and optimize for that specific marginal outcome. It doesn't matter what my AOV is necessarily, but it's only going to spend if it can get that specific return on ad spend. Now, if you're optimizing for cost caps only, cost per result goal, now let's read the fine print here. Aim for a certain cost per result while maximizing the volume of results. Now, think about what that means. It's going to try to get the most conversions possible at the cheapest cost. That does not optimize for an average order value though. So if you are optimizing for a $100 CPA target, but you are not really sure if your average order value is really going to be $130 because it's not predictable, and you have a $30 item on that collection page, Meta is likely going to go after that $30 average order value, which means you're going to have a significantly worse marginal outcome than you think bidding for $100. You're going to have a 0.3. Now, that's not what we want. So when you're thinking about sending your traffic, that's why we need to have SKU specific campaigns. That's why if I'm sending traffic to a $130 hoodie, I need to make sure that I am able to, as best as I can, predict what that average order value is going to be so I can set my cost control. And then of course, as the campaign begins spending, you're going to watch your average order value and see what the actualized average order value is over the course of the campaign's lifetime, and then adjust your cost cap accordingly. If your average order value comes in lower than expected at $120, you're gonna wanna lower your cost control to around $90 so that you can keep that 1.3 ROAS. Now, that is why understanding how cost per result goal campaigns work is so important, because most people set their cost cap and they think that that's the end of the story, and you're always going to have to adjust your cost cap based on your actualized AOV from that campaign. The next step is going to select more here, and this is the most important attribution setting. All right, I know we got a little technical there, but super important stuff. And next you're going to click this little more button, and this is the most important setting I think in all of Ads Manager. It's your attribution setting. I have a whole video on this. It's actually the most recent video that I made, why this is the most important setting in Ads Manager and why you want to turn off view attribution. I'm not going to explain all of this now. All you know is that you should only be running 7-day click or 1-day click and only using click-through attribution. Turn off this engaged view, turn off view through altogether, and that's it. Of course, you have your budget and schedule for start date, end date, as well as being able to set ad set spending limits if you want to. I don't really recommend messing with any of that stuff. Now, going down to the audience control settings, you can see here that right now Meta is trying to use something called Advantage Plus Audience, which actually hides most of the detailed targeting that you can do within Meta. I'm personally a fan of this. It actually leaves you with the only setting that I think you need to mess with, which is making sure that you're excluding your past purchasers. You should always be excluding a past purchasers list of around 180-day purchase exclusions, just like this, made from the pixel, and also using an all-time purchasers list that is dynamically uploaded automatically to Meta Ads Manager from a third-party platform. For example, Klaviyo is really good at this, where they automatically sync the all customer list to Meta, which dynamically updates on a daily basis. You want to make sure that you're always excluding your past purchasers so that every single media dollar is only set to acquire new customers. And using a pixel-based audience is not enough, because the pixel-based audience, and note that a pixel-based audience is not good enough because of data loss. You need to have an automatically updating past purchasers list synced to your email platform. Now, if you want, instead of using Advantage Plus Audience, you can also just switch to use Original Audience, and this is what it will look like. I bet most of your platforms are probably going to look like this. Just make sure that you are simply excluding your past purchasers, the 180-day pixel audience, and also your dynamically updating all-time purchaser list. That is it. You don't need to select any sort of interest targeting. You don't need to use lookalike audiences. There's nothing else that you need to do except broad targeting and exclude your past purchasers. As simple as that. And at the ad level, you want to make sure you select the proper Facebook page. You can select manual upload and then also select your media here. And so for example, if I am creating an ad, I'm just going to use a random image from their ads library. Here you go. And then you will want to select your primary text and headlines. I'm going to use text previously used for fun, just for the sake of this video. I recommend personally using multiple text options. And as you can see here, I've added multiple primary texts, and you can also add multiple headlines. Something I want to call out here is this button that says partially optimized. You'll notice that it says add one or more text options. The more text options that you use, the more you can reduce creative fatigue and personalize your ad for each person who sees it. This is why using dynamic creative testing is no longer really needed, because every single ad unit can become a dynamic creative test. You can use multiple primary text and multiple headlines and let Meta and the algorithm choose which one is to cater to each individual end user. I love using this because you can also break down that data within Ads Manager. And so for example, if I go to any given campaign like this one right here, where we're using multiple text options, and I'm going to show you just a built out ad campaign and what it looks like. You can see we have 3 primary texts. We also have 3 headlines here. And if I go to this breakdown button right here and I select by dynamic creative element, and I also select headline, now it's going to show me which headline is getting the most spend on each ad creative. This is extremely helpful because it's a directional data point to help guide my future creative strategy. For example, I don't actually have the headline world's best lenses on an ad unit yet. And I mean baked into the actual static image that I'm running, but I do have it around the ad unit as the headline. Now, maybe in my next iteration of some sort of static image, I can use world's best lenses as the headline because I have data that points in that direction saying that, hey, this is what customers respond to. And I think that that's extremely useful. I want to also point out that from creative source, you can also select catalog, and then you can basically select a carousel or use a collection ad. And as you can see here at the ad creative level, now that we're using the catalog, which will pull directly from Commerce Manager, you can select your catalog and then create product sets to then run as carousel ads. And it will show each individual image that the algorithm thinks the end user is most likely to respond to and deliver it to them. This is extremely valuable because you can filter for different product sets if you want, and you can let the algorithm decide which end user is likely to respond to what product. It's a really valuable tool and something that we use very often. Another version of this is if you go back up to format, you can select collection ad, and this is going to create a whole new experience called instant experience. Down here at destination, click create new, storefront, click next, select your proper catalog, select the product set that you want to use, select image or video, create a call to action, select the proper destination, and I'm not going to do that for just this example, and then press continue. Now you have an image on the top and a product set automatically displayed beneath it, and this is called an instant experience, which is a great way to get more out of existing creative assets if you want to test it out. Going back up to the top, if you're using manual upload, which is regular ads, you can also create a carousel of static images or videos where you can add different cards in videos, and then same thing as before, you can add as many primary text as you would like to using the multiple text option features. Another thing to point out is below your website URL section, you also have your URL parameters where you're going to want to put your UTMs. Now, if you scroll down to destination, you can select your website URL and then also select the URL parameters, place that here instead of having to append it directly to the end of your URL. Before we wrap up the video, I want to point out something called Advantage Plus Creative. This is a very new setting in Meta Ads Manager that uses artificial intelligence to automatically update your creative in different ways. I have a full video coming on this setting because it actually is a pretty deep, complicated subject. However, this is something that you definitely want to be aware of. I would make sure you click edit, and you either want to go in here and select on or off from these different settings. You can select all optimizations on here at the top like this, which will turn on all optimizations, or you can turn them all off or individually turn different ones on and off. That's as deep as I'm going to get into it now. If you do choose to leave on Advantage Plus Creative, make sure you're reading the documentation and understanding what it can possibly do to your ads, because there are some pretty significant visual changes that Advantage Plus can do to enhance your ads. Now, something that just came out like while I'm making this video is called ad sources, which I believe is a new thing where you're going to be able to have multiple different URLs going to one ad creative at the same time. And these are actually called site. And so you can click add here and then select different display labels, which is likely different copywriting displays of those site links, and then set the URL. And then you can also set the URL. And think about this similar to Google site links that appear in search ads underneath your main landing page. You're going to have alternative landing pages and alternative traffic sources that you can send traffic to. This is really interesting and something that I'm definitely going to be making probably another video on in the future because I don't know how to use it right now. But this is a little teaser, and make sure you subscribe below because I'll definitely be making a new video going over what this is and how to use it properly as soon as I figure it out myself. Before I wrap up the video, I want to give a special shout out to Jolbo Eyewear, who is the client that has let me graciously use their ad account in this tutorial. Thanks so much to them. And I want to actually show you just what a normal campaign setup looks like. So you can see here's our naming convention. I'm going to click edit into this campaign. You can see we're using a daily budget of $1,200. We're using a cost per result goal of $70 for this campaign. We're using only 7-day click attribution setting. We also are excluding our past purchasers, and we're using a saved audience here. But check this out, excluding past purchasers, we've got our all-time purchase list synced to Klaviyo, as well as our pixel-based audience, broad targeting in full, and using Advantage Plus placements. We have 3 ads within this campaign, and each ad looks like this. We're using manual upload, single image or video. Do have multi-advertiser ads on. Want to learn more about that? I have a whole video on that as well on my channel. And then you can see here, we've got a version of this for for the Facebook feed. And then we also have a modified version for story placements, which you can select over here and see what that looks like across Instagram stories, across Instagram reels. This is what that looks like. Looks like we actually are getting this copywriting blocked off at the bottom. So I recommend making sure that when you're making 9x16 story placement assets, that you don't accidentally cut off text at the bottom and stay within the safe zones. There's actually some documentation on Meta of how to make sure that you are staying within the safe zones that I recommend you check out. And you can see here that we're using 3 different primary texts, 3 different headlines, fully taking advantage of multiple text options, as well as our URL here and a UTM parameter appended to the URL parameter section at the bottom. To reiterate, this is as simple as excluding past purchasers at the ad set level, having a few ads within your campaign, using CBO, campaign budget optimization, or advantage campaign budget, where you're letting the Meta algorithm automatically distribute your budget from the campaign level, setting your cost control based on the marginal outcome and expectation that you need from that campaign, and setting the budget to ensure that it can exit the learning phase with 50 conversion events within a week. Ensure that every single campaign, every single ad launches as its own standalone campaign so that you can simply scale it up vertically if you need. And you can see here in this account, we have no testing campaign. We don't have any ABO testing campaign at low budget. Every campaign starts with the proper budget that it needs. It starts with its proper cost control and financial outcome that we're looking for. And we simply either scale it up or we tighten up our cost control if it is not getting the financial outcome that we need based on the actualized AOV of that campaign. I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.